So I think I would like to add one more layer to what we just discussed. So it's almost there is a element of playfulness that is that's very much required, right? Because even it's one thing to be technically competent, to be very skillful, to be somebody who pursues the craft, but it's also another thing to have a bit of a rebellious streak in you, right? And I think to a large extent, the fact that you're coming from Stanford makes it even more fascinating, right? Because Stanford has a history of faculty members who've been a little rebellious in how they actually view things and do things. And since we even spoke about David Kelly, I remember many years ago I watched a talk that he gave. Uh, where he said that one of the best things that he designed, I don't know if I'm getting the phrase right, but he said one of the things that he's most proud of was he gifted a phone to his then girlfriend, who went on to become his wife, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, "This is a very cool phone, and I want you to have it." And it had a number pad on the holder, and the trick in that product was she can dial whatever number she wanted, but it would always end up calling David. Right. So there is this element of playfulness that also needs to be encouraged as people are going ahead and really striving to not just be contributors but also leaders. So what is your take on the importance of playfulness in both somebody who is learning and somebody who's teaching and mentoring? So what's your take on that?
Well, I think it's really essential for two primary reasons, and one is internal and one is external. The internal reason is that to get very good at something, to see results in any initiative, usually requires you to be pretty persistent and perhaps even persistent beyond the point of reason, right? Whenever we get started with something new, most of the time it's not going to be very good. And so every bit of feedback is going to be coming back and saying, stop, don't do this, go back to what's tried and true, right? This is what the voice in our head, it's the voice that most people listen to. And having a sense of playfulness, of saying, hey, I'm going to have fun along the way. I'm going to improve and iterate and get better. There's that design thinking again. But I'm also going to do it in a way where I'm going to enjoy the process. That gives you a way to persist. And that increases the chances that you'll stick with something long enough to actually produce something of value. And then once you produce something of value, once you produce something great or innovative, all of a sudden the feedback might turn positive. And then it's much easier to keep going from there and to build on that success. So that's the internal side of it. The external side, when it comes to storytelling and communication, is just if you have a sense of playfulness, if you have a sense of fun, it's a lot more interesting. Many people in the United States can remember the classic movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You may have seen it as well. And in it, an actor, actually an economist who people pulled out, the director saw and just said, oh, this guy, I want to have him in my movie doing this. It's a guy named Ben Stein. And in it, he is the most boring teacher imaginable as he's calling off the name roll of the students. He's like, Bueller, 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 and in this sort of monotone and very slow and very boring. And it's actually the way he talks. It turns out that he wasn't playing a character. That's actually kind of the way he is. But that is terrible, right? Who's going to pay attention? Everyone's going to fall asleep. They show students lying asleep, drooling, et cetera, et cetera. You have to bring that sense of playfulness to teaching. And some of it is just instinctive, but some of it is just your attitude towards life. If you look at life with a sense of amusement and wonder and joy, then generally that gets conveyed to other people. If, on the other hand, you view life with a sense of grim determination, well, that's also going to get conveyed to people, and it's probably not going to seem very fun.